We have to be knocking at your doors saying, we'll interview key people in ministries, and we would also get any reports that you have, any information that you have. We would need to understand from you what are the problems that you're facing, what are the issues that you would like to do better in your agency, and all this information. So listening to your contributions will help us actually in creating this objective that we were seeing. So visionary or conceptual alternatives for sustainable development will be devised. So we want to see what is our vision, what is our alternative view for sustainable development for the city is going to be like. What direction do we want the city to take? What is the role that we want the city to play? And this is something that will come from similar seminars or workshops that we're having here, or by individual interaction with with the LGAs or with the MDAs. So, and then once we set for ourselves the vision, we say this is where we want to be. What is the route that would lead us to that vision? What is the strategy that we have to follow so that we can have the city of Benin play the role that we see for it? Okay, so we create a vision for the city of Benin, and then we have to translate that vision into a strategy, and the strategy is going to be the things that we have to adopt in order to meet that vision. So development strategy will be defined in increasing sectoral details. So for each sector, we'll go and study what are the strategies that we have to do it, and will be presented in sectoral papers. The deliverables of the phase will be strategy documents with sectoral reports. Now, the last one will be the synthesis of all the plans. Once we have those sectoral reports, we are going to synthesize them and then put them all together. So we see the power, we need the power to grow in this direction, or we set for ourselves the direction for the growth, for instance, of the power sector, but we want also the other sectors to go hand in hand with it. So we need to take all these sector reports and put them all together, and when we put them all together, this will form actually for us the master plan. So once we understand what each sector is going to look like in the future, we have to make sure that they are in coherence with each other, and this is what actually puts together a city master plan. So a city master plan will, at this stage, will be drawn by just taking all these sectors and making them coherent with each other. It will be consistent with the phased, costed, sustainable, and affordable approach designed to guide the growth. And the deliverable of this phase will be the Benin City Master Plan as a GIS database and published report documented with maps, graphics, illustration, and with explanation covering all the subjects. I'm still looking for the slide where I have the 13 sectors, but it will come, so bear with me. Anyway, now, training. Training is a very important and essential element of our approach for developing a master plan. And the way we do the training is learning by doing. We adopt the learning by doing, meaning if we have 13 sectors, from each of the ministries or from the trainees that we're going to recruit, they might be ministry employees, or they might be people that are available to us to work with. So we're going to have 2 or 3 trainees for each sector that will be seconded to our experts. So since day one, we are going to start identifying key people who are going to be involved with us for in every element or every decision that we make while developing this master plan. And why are we doing this? First of all, to train these people on the approach that we are going to adopt for doing the master plan, and we want these people to be the inheritors of our master plan. Once we leave, we are exiting in 18 months, supposedly. I mean, our time frame is 18 months. So somebody has to inherit, and somebody has to take that master plan and adopt it. So that it will be the baby for that group of people. So we are going to have 2 to 3 trainees from each of the following sectors. We need urban planners. We're going to have sociologists. We're going to have economists. We're going to have financial analysts, transportation experts, hydrologists, power experts, telecom experts, tourist professionals, medical experts, education specialists, environmentalists, GIS and remote sensing. So we could see here that at least we're going to have 50 or 60 people who are going to be trained on this master plan. So we're not doing it in isolation alone. And the reason is we want to create a big pool of experts who will stay here in Benin once we leave, who will stay here and who would have understood every step that we took while developing this master plan. So these people, out of this 50 or 60 people, we expect at least to maintain 5 or 6 of them who can at the end be able to update and maintain this master plan as we leave. Okay, so our approach is we want people, the adoption of the trainees for all the phases of the project, and we want these trainees to be involved in all the aspects of the master plan, and by the end of the project, the trainees will be responsible for updating and maintaining the master plan. And as we said, it's dynamic. Things change. And when things change, you need somebody to come and modify it. Technology is moving at a fast rate. Who would say that oil is going to become useless in maybe 5 or 10 years? Who would have thought this 10 years ago or 15 years ago? We thought that oil is going to last at least for 100 years. Now we're finding that alternative technologies are coming. And so these are things that people have to keep changing and modifying based on the developments that are happening. Technology is moving at a very fast pace, and this is where actually, when you do a master plan and you say this will serve 25 years, there are some complaints about it because things are going to change, and the technology that you planned for will be changed and might be obsolete by in maybe 10 years. Okay. These are some ideas about what can happen when we're talking about an urban planning things. If you look for the city of Benin, you could see the city center, and then you have the suburbs, and you have the peri-urban areas, and you have the major roads. So one of the issues for like examples that this is something that will happen is to have what we refer to as satellite cities. So instead of keeping everything concentric and everything is at the center of the city and people have to always travel in and out so that they can do the work and then go back to their home, having the suburbs as the bedrooms and the city center as the offices. Now we are going to, maybe this is the new way of looking at it, to develop satellite cities, and these satellite cities will be self-sufficient, self-contained at the suburbs of the cities, and this will actually cut on the need to travel, and then will improve will improve on the traffic congestion and things like this. So you will have in those satellite cities the social amenities, a center, the employment, the housing, they're all together in all these suburbs. You could see that at each of these areas we're trying to create, I mean, this is one idea. And this has to be supported by the proper land use and by the proper infrastructure so that we could have the access to the city if there is any, and then maybe making all these circumferential roads for it. So what is the expected outcome of the Benin Master Plan? The output is going to be forward planning tools. It is tools. We are giving a master plan should be thought of as a tool. It's forward planning tools that anticipate urban development and make provisions for it on a cityscape in terms of allocation of lands for various uses, the regulation of its development, the provision of civic infrastructure, so it is not just allocation of land, but providing the infrastructure for it. And then it is proactive proposals, things that we need to do so that we can deal with the problems that the city is currently facing. Incentive-based policy, so try to give people the incentive to adopt the master plan. It's not just doing a master plan, which is very hard to implement, so we have to make it incentive-based master plan, and adoption of complementary instruments and utilizing land-based instruments. Now, the question that people will say, what have we learned from the past? What are the lessons learned from the planning that we have? I mean, the city of Benin had 2 master plans. The question is, did they fail? Why did they fail, if they failed? So the bigger question is that people always talk about planners, they always mention it. Is it planning to fail, or failing to plan? What is the issue that we had here? Did we fail to do proper planning, or we plan to fail. This is the problem that we are maybe facing. Why people didn't follow this master plan? Was it a bad plan that people didn't follow? Or is it that they didn't do a proper plan? So the question is, master plans have been developed in the past, nothing new. What we are doing is nothing new. The problem has always been in enforcement of plans. So people do a master plan, but if you look at the plans that were done in the 70s, they were policy plans. So they would just give you at the end a book, as we say here, literature. People would look at it and they say, oh, nice, I'll put it on the shelf, but what can I do with it? What can I do with it? So they cannot translate the policies into action area plans. So this is what the part that is missing. So people who developed the master plan were expecting the authorities to be able to read, understand, and comprehend properly and interpret the plans. And this is actually sometimes, especially in the past, people would look at it and they say, oof, I have to read all of this, just move it aside. Let me see my brother, what does he want? A road in here, we'll build for him a road in here. Okay? So it is the translation of plans into action areas that was missing, that was actually making it difficult to be implemented. And then reading and understanding and properly interpreting the plan was something difficult to do. And the most important thing is the institutional arrangements and collaboration between stakeholders to implement the plan. We know that all the agencies have to talk to each other. If the urban planning department is putting a high density, so this means that the road department has to provide a 4-lane road to that area. And maybe they make it, but the road department says, I have no money, I'm not going to build a road for you there. So these things have to be done hand in hand. The stakeholders, the different various departments in the government are not talking to each other so that they develop it together. You might have a new development happening, but there is no power that is going into that area. So what will people do? So these are the things where there is this institutional arrangement and collaboration between stakeholders to make it work. And because they're not talking to each other, so we see that people are not following the plan. They're just going and developing on their own, trying to be self-sufficient. And later on, we end up with not the best planning that that the city should have. And the lessons that we failure of previous master plans can be contributed to sometimes the concept of planning itself. I mean, trying to be here a little bit philosophical, but the approach of master plan was far too simplistic, especially to anticipate development and needs of citizens' aspiration. Now we are going to sit down together and we're trying to see what do citizens want. So we're going to send these boys, these 1,000 boys that we have to go and fill these surveys. And when we do these surveys, they'll come up with what the citizens want. So we'll try to understand what are the demands of the citizens in terms of their livelihood, what they want to see changed. However, people cannot sometimes translate it properly when they send you this information. We're going to talk to, even when we do the regional development plan, talk to the LGAs, see what their needs, talk to the responsibles there in these areas. But we put it like too simplistically and by saying that we can anticipate the development needs of the people. The very long tenure of master plans, 25 years, we say it's going to last for 25 years. Who knows that the technology is not going to change, has been a major hindrance to anticipate socioeconomic and technological change. Just give you an example. In the 10 years ago, when we used to do telecom, we used to talk about landlines. Now, when you're designing the city, you don't talk anymore about landlines. Maybe you talk about Internet of Things, IoT. You talk about smart cities. You talk about the new technology. Now we all talk about, oh, look, we have replaced it with the cell phone. Even the cell phone concept that we have, those power lines, maybe in the coming 10 years, it's going to disappear. It's going to be all satellite-based. You have all these companies who are now fighting among each other to cover the whole world with satellites, and these are going to be communication satellites. So our communication is going to be totally different. So when we're doing Internet of Things and a smart city, is going to be using now maybe those satellites that will be covering the whole world and making communication very easy. So when you do a planning for telecom, maybe now we know of these Internet of Things, we know about the things, but I'm sure 10 years down the street, what we are planning for might have completely become obsolete. So that's why it has to be changing and evolving, and we cannot anticipate that for 25 years our master plan is going to hold, because changes are happening, technology is evolving. Oops. Most of the plans are are not coterminous with urban local government, which leads to interventions at the later stage or implementation stage by obtaining deviation from plan proposals. So we have the local governments who are going to take this master plan and adopt it, and by the time they adopt it, they might not be in sync of what's happening there. So they are somewhat phased out when they come to do it. Master plan formats fail to meet the aspiration of the citizens due to the elite capture and lip service to public participation. This is something that people always criticize planners. They say, you planners are, you have a different view to how things are. You have this elitist view to capturing information, and you say that you want to have public participation. It was just a lip service. Public participation, how does it translate into really understanding the needs of people? So there is some criticism of really capturing the needs of people by just doing these surveys or talking to people. Maybe there are other things that needs to be captured that are not really part of the procedure that is used. But this is also a philosophical approach. And approach taken towards plan implementation is fraught with financial challenges and also the risks of legal challenges and land acquisition. Financial challenges, this is typical. I want to build my city and make it perfect, and I want to have highways everywhere, but I need the resources, I need money. If I have the money, I mean, this whole thing doesn't work. But it's good to keep in mind that this is my objective, this is where I want to get, and I have to have like a stage approach so that I can reach that objective. I don't know whether I should continue or you want to stop, because, I mean, according to the schedule that you've set, I have actually mixed them all together. Do you want me to continue? Yeah. Yes. So the critical resources and requirements, when we talk about critical resources and requirements for the master planning, what are the enablers for this? The enablers are vision and top support, or the authority support for developing the master plan. So the critical resources, what will enable a master plan to work? We need to have the support from the authorities. If the authorities are not convinced that what we are doing is useful to them, sometimes they tell you, come and do it because it's their duty to do it. But some people have to believe in it. And if they believe in it, you get all the support. And this is where you are able to reach out to different people and then be able to develop the master plan. The grassroots approach and ownership of a master plan. When we're talking about master critical resources, we're talking about the grassroots approach and who's going to own this master plan. So the grassroots approach is by looking at, it's not a top-down approach. It's going to be a bottom-up approach. It's not the planner who's going to come and say, oh, this community needs this. No, it is the community who's going to come to the planner and say, we're suffering from this item, that item, and then the planner has to see how can he or she translate those problems into solutions for them. So the grassroots approach, the bottom-up approach, this is what will make it, that will make a successful master plan. Stakeholder supports for contributing to the master plan. Again, the ministries, MDAs, they have to be all working together. Availability of resources for developing the master plan. Availability of people, availability of finances, and availability of the technology to be able to capture the information. And availability and sustainability of resources for maintaining the master plan. So once we do the master plan, we need to have people in place and the institutional arrangements so that they can take that master plan and keep on updating it and maintaining it and make it sustainable so that they'll be able to use it in the future. When we're talking in our proposal, we are going to do 2 master plans in parallel, and they will be working together, and the duration of the project is 18 months. So the potential risks in here is lack of funding, as we mentioned, the schedule changed due to lack of responsiveness and cooperation. This is another issue here. We're talking logistics. If our company is working, the people we have to come up with proposals. People have to sit down and agree on these proposals. So people have to be engaged with us. If people are not interested, we can submit our proposals and try to discuss, but nobody is responding, so they might be delaying us. So it's important to have the responsiveness and the cooperation of the people. This is actually the risk that we might be running in order to be able to develop the master plan on time. And the availability of the workforce for each component of the master plan, and the force majeure, corona or other diseases. We will never know. Maybe next year we'll have a new disease. So who was expecting corona? So these are things that might be actually some of the risk factors that we're facing. Here I have the proposed schedule. We have already prepared a detailed schedule for the 18-month. I'm not going to go through this. It's going to take us maybe the whole afternoon to do it. But every single task, we just set when does it start, when does it end, who's going to be involved in it, how many man-hour it takes, and what is the time to get the response from the client, and all of these. This is actually detailed. I can give it to you later on in a detailed manner. Okay. So this is the first presentation that I have. The second presentation is about the regional development plan for the whole state of Edo. I can go through that, or you want us to do some discussions, Your Excellency, on the first phase. Do we go through the Edo one? Take a break? Okay. Okay.
Can you take us through those 13 key sectors, and so that we can try to match them with our NDAs and so that we can tease out who is
Just one or two concerns. First, you talked about enforcement as one of the reasons why previous plans failed. So how do we ensure that this new plan does not suffer the same fate? I would say that we need to make very clear provisions as to manpower needs and technology needs going forward. So that's just a comment. Then you talked about stakeholders. And in the course of your presentation, you repeatedly mentioned stakeholders to be just the MDAs. I want to believe that beyond the MDAs, there are other stakeholders that we must engage with in the course of developing this plan. The community people, the private sector, those are very critical people that we must have engagement with in the course of our developing our plans beyond the MDAs. And then finally, sorry, I took some notes. Okay, checks and balances, for want of a better expression. In your presentation, you talked about the fact that the master plan is dynamic. So going forward, there are going to be changes. So how do we ensure that these changes that are going to be made do not alter significantly, or even completely or entirely, the focus of these plans? You know, because the government might come to say, well, we don't want this anymore. So how do we have checks and balances within the system to ensure that the integrity or the purpose for these plans is retained significantly? Thank you very much.
As you mentioned, as you remember when I was doing my presentation, we said that we're going to have like 50 or 60 people who are going to be with us and who will be involved in all this aspects of this master plan. So these people are going to be trained as planners. I mean, they're going to stay with us for a year and a half, and they might have the background to be planners. So they will be seeing the approach to do it. Now, when do you see that there are changes that happen? It is actually related to that question. When you see that the master plan that you are trying to implement is not implementable, there's something wrong with the master plan. People are not actually following the master plan for a reason, and then you try to understand why it's not working. So you try to find solution, and this is the role that these guys are supposed to do to maintain and do it. It's dynamic. So they might be changing it maybe every time they see that the policy is not working. They might sit down together and say, well, we have to do something in here. This policy is not working. We have to adopt it, change it so that it will work with that. Now, this doesn't mean that every now and then they change the land use. This is residential, tomorrow it becomes commercial, next it will become industrial. No, this is not the type of change that you would expect from these people. The changes that they will be doing is they might have to do with, for instance, the prioritization of projects, which project we should do now. They see development occurring in this region while the roads that we gave priority on are in a different region. So let's try to focus on moving that. So this is the type of changes that they have to do. Maybe the road that we had planned for this region is not needed because development or there was a need at the economic level to change the land use from being industrial to making it agriculture. So you don't need basically those roads, so they can't change it and then do it. So these are the things that, based on the demand for land, how can we modify it, or what, based on the activities that people are doing, what are the changes that are going to happen? Now, a master plan usually has enough vision that can be sustainable for many years. We did one for the Delta State, for the Riverine Delta State, 20 years ago, the time of Governor Ibori. Last month, David, I don't know, he called me and said, do you remember that master plan? I need it, because we didn't do anything since then. I need to see what were the projects that you recommended for us. And it was listed, project 1, 2, 3. These are the projects you should have done in the first 10 years. These are the projects that you should do in the coming 10 years. And we gave them, like, for 25 years, the sequence of the projects and the financial side of each of these. This is what we will talk about when in the next presentation, when we change the project into action area plans. So for each of these projects, we give it priority. Which one should be developed now? Which one should be developed later? So these are things that can be changed. So we don't have to say if this is within the 10 years and then later on we discover that, no, one of the ones that we have as low priority is important, it should be shifted first, or it has to be upgraded. These are the changes that we have to make. Okay? I hope I answered the question. The question of Frank, we'll go through it now when we do the second presentation. Now let me remember your questions. I'm getting old, I start to forget. Enforcement, yes, enforcement. This is very critical, the enforcement. The enforcement, actually, this is one of the topics that I had a private discussion with His Excellency about it. He said, how can I make sure that people are going to follow this plan? And we were talking about institutional arrangements. Maybe we need to create a new agency, a new planning bureau that will be in charge of this. And this planning bureau should be equipped with technology and with planners who can do it. Technology can help you with enforcement. Now, development control can be also, we could strengthen that department, which is actually under the EDOGIS, the department that now Frank is involved in. If you take yearly satellite imagery for the whole state, and you do image differencing. So I can see every year any house that has been built. I can check now if there's any illegal development that's happening, because I don't have to go on the site and do it. Technology can help me. So now I can tell whether there is any illegal development happening. So immediately I can highlight these, and then we will have the team that is equipped with the right technology to just go there and stop them or whatever, so that we can make it. Look at, it's very easy. Look at Abuja, and when they had Rufai as a minister. They had a master plan, and before Rufai came, people started shifting from that master plan. So when he came, he started demolishing. When he demolished, people who were violating the law, they started demolishing their own before he comes and sue them. So if you have somebody with a will and an agency that has the power, the enforcement can be done. And if the master plan is favorable to everyone, I don't think you give people, you remember I said it should be incentive-based, the planning. You should give people the incentive to follow the rules and not to violate the rules. So if you have a piece of land and you know that it's a critical piece of land, and you, for instance, change it into agriculture in the middle of the city, people are going to build in it. I mean, I'm just giving you a very wrong example. You have to have it fair so that you give incentive to people to just follow the rule and not break the rule to get some economic benefits out of it. So this is. So now we're going to talk about regional development plans for Edo State. So we will do a methodology for preparation of a regional development plan. We'll talk about the subjects of the presentation, the sectoral reports. These are the reports that I've been looking for. They are in the second presentation. I didn't really remember that. Regional development long-term methodology for conducting regional development plans. How are we going to approach it? What are the things that we're going to do? Show some of the data that Siraj has been collecting that are vital for regional planning. As you know, we've been in discussion for some time now about it. And while waiting to get the letter of award or to start this contract, we've done our homework. We started collecting data. We started looking at secondary data that are available. So we have done some work. We have collected some information that are useful to us. And then we are going to talk about what is so special about the regional development plan that we are going to do. So how can we translate a plan into action area plan? And then there is this, we put everything in a GIS environment so that we could use it as a GIS-based tools for management of the plan. So the methodology that we're going to do, it's collection and collation of primary and secondary data and documents. As I mentioned, the same thing that we're going to do for the city of Vanina, we're going to do it at the state level. So every LGA is going to be surveyed. Every LGA, we are going to get all the information, socioeconomic information from them. And then we are trying to build a very big database for the whole state. And then we're going to analyze this information, and based on the analysis, we're going to do the recommendation, and then we're going to set the objective, same method that will translate into strategies, and then we'll synthesize the plan and develop some kind of a development strategy and for policies. And then we're going to do development of proposals, implementation program, and cost estimates. And then we're going to look at the long-term comprehensive regional development versus the short-term development projects. Here you go. These are the sector reports that we're going to look at. So we are going to look, when we say we're going to do the survey or analyze 13 sectors, we'll start by population and settlement. We need to understand where people are living and what are their living conditions. So this is the social data that we have to collect. We have to collect lots of information about the population and the settlement and the economic conditions. So socioeconomic information is going to be here very extensive in this population and settlement. We need to understand where people are living and what are their living conditions. And then we have to collect information about traffic and transportation. So we need to see the roads that are available, the condition of the roads, the traffic on the roads, the congestions that we have, the problems of mobility, whether people are able to move from one point to the other, is it the most efficient way to move, all the problems that are related to traffic and transportation.